All right, I think we are rolling. Welcome, everyone. If you're watching this, my name is Sequoia. I am owner and operator of Phoenix Off Grid Solutions. I design and install off grid power systems, plumbing systems, heating, and cooling systems for mobile off grid applications. This is my first live stream, so sorry if it's a little clunky. I'm still getting used to just operating the live stream. But it is something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and it's a way for me to connect to folks that want to learn more about off-grid power systems and plumbing systems and heating and cooling systems. Really, any van life questions in general. My goal is to have a live stream once a month, and folks can write in. You can comment here. You can email me. I'll have the my newsletter or my email list sign up link in the description so that you will get updated when I do my live streams next. Also, like and subscribe here, and I guess you'll get notified that way. And it will be a way for you to submit questions to a longtime van builder, an off-grid power system designer and installer. I've built over 100 custom conversion vans. I've been in this industry for over 5 years. I've worked in two professional van shops. I have subcontracted for professional van shops, and now I own my own off-grid power system slash van business right here in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. And so today, I and want to talk about winterizing. I sent an email out to my followers and posted on my social media asking for people to write in with questions that I will cover. And I had one person do that, and it was about winterizing their lithium iron phosphate battery. It's actually a previous client of mine. And I believe they have a off-grid power system, a basic Victron system with an epoch or an epic 300 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. When I do my design and installs, I'm really only using a few different lithium iron phosphate batteries. I'm using the Epic batteries, I'm using Victron batteries, and more recently, I'm using SFK batteries. Um, the Epic and the SFK have internal heaters. The Victron batteries do not. Now, if you're just new to this realm and you're thinking about building your own power system or building out your own van, there's been a change from using the lead acid and AGM batteries to using the lithium batteries. And the biggest change is around winterizing your batteries. The LifePo 4 batteries cannot be charged below freezing temperatures. And I say cannot, but you could do it. You could try to do it. Some batteries out there, the cheaper quality batteries, do not have what is called a low temp cutoff. And with these lithium batteries, they're all equipped, or they should be equipped with a BMS, a battery management system. The battery management system helps protect the battery from overcharging or from being completely depleted or from operating in really high temps or from operating in really low temps. The more sophisticated batteries do a lot more than that. And basically, when it comes to winterizing, you don't want to have your battery charging below freezing temperatures. And that has to do with the chemistry inside of your battery. Now, I am not an expert when it comes to understanding the chemistry of what's happening inside of battery, but basically, there's materials inside. There's the cathode and there's then the anode, and at a very small scale, there's electrons moving from one piece to another piece, and it moves across a substance, an electrolyte mix. And when the batteries are very cold or below freezing temperature, that substance that these electrons are moving through creates an environment where a phenomenon called lithium plating can occur. And that's basically like little pieces of this get added to this over here, and it starts to create a bridge because the electrolyte is um, almost frozen or it's very viscous. And what can happen over time is obviously a degradation of the lithium battery, but also there's like a bridge that can occur from one piece to the next, and that would create an internal short circuit of your battery, which is not what you want. And when that happens, although these LiFePO batteries are much more stable than a typical lithium ion battery, there's another phenomenon called a thermal runaway, which occurs. And that is when the battery will start heating up and catch fire, and you cannot put it out until it's just completely burned everything inside of the battery. You probably have heard about situations like this when it comes to electric cars out on the road, Teslas and other electric vehicles. It's a different type of battery that's probably in your camper van. It's definitely different than the ones I install. So, what we're trying to avoid is the lithium plating. And that happens when you charge your battery below freezing temperatures. Now, most quality batteries and all the batteries that I install have a low temp cutoff. And there's folks on YouTube that do testing of these batteries. I really don't ever do that. I mean, from time to time, I do, but I am not ripping apart batteries just to test their low temp cutoff. I'm relying on other folks on YouTube to do that, and I can recommend some videos too if you're interested in that. But basically, when the temperature sensor inside the battery senses that the cells are below freezing, it will tell the BMS, do not accept a charge. And in that way, there's no way that you can charge your battery. There's no way that lithium plating can occur. There's no way that thermal runaway can happen in that case. Now, some of you may have other batteries out there that are not installed by me, lower quality batteries, budget batteries, where either they don't have a low temp cutoff because they weren't designed to be used maybe outside in a vehicle, and they were meant to be used inside or in a warmed space, a heated space, or because the functionality, the sensors, the BMS have failed. And so it is actually allowing charging below freezing temperatures, and then you've created maybe an unsafe situation, which is not good. Um, and so when we want to winterize our lithium iron phosphate batteries, we want to make sure that that's not going to happen. And in most cases, folks are winterizing and storing their RVs long term, right? So there's folks that use their vehicles over winter, and there's folks that don't use them over winter. And I would say for me and my clients, even my consulting clients, it's like half and half, right? Some folks are storing them about now. They don't have any other trips planned. If they do, they can take it out of their winterized state and be on their way. Um, and it is also recommended that you get your state of charge, or your SOC of your battery down to about 50%. And depending on where you look and what battery manufacturer you have, you may see different states of charge that they recommend. I've even seen Battleborn just say 100%, charge it up, turn off your switch, disconnect it from your cables, and you're good to go. What I've read is that having your battery fully charged and then putting it into storage just adds to the degradation of the battery. I'm not exactly sure why that happens, but it seems that most recommendations are to keep your battery at 50%. And I think they say 50% and not lower because they're taking into account the lithium battery's self discharge rate, which could be from 1 to 3%, meaning that like over a month's time, it's just lost 3% of its charge. If you let it sit for 6 months, that's 6 times 3, that's 18%. So 18% off of an already 50% battery, it means that your battery isn't going to be depleted all the way down to zero if you're turning everything off. And when your battery gets down to zero, even though battery BMSs have internal like low voltage cutoffs, which is what would happen if the battery was discharging and discharging, or if you had a small DC load that was using power, the voltage would get lower and lower until the BMS would cut itself off and say we're not discharging anymore, which would be ideal. But again, not preferred. Perhaps we want to keep that battery, right around 50% while we're storing it. For instance, The SFK batteries that I've been using, they have a very sophisticated BMS that integrates very well with a fully Victron system. And most of my installs these days are like mostly Victron, except for the SFK batteries. The SFK batteries have a BMS that what do I want to say, manage all of the charging and discharging of the entire system. So the BMS is actually telling the chargers um, how much it wants to get charged and when, and at what rate. Um, and so where was I going with that? You have a little sip of tea. In any case, I think I was saying that um, the BMS will turn itself off, low voltage cutoffs. Um, Keeping your battery at 50% is ideal. If I had any viewers right now, perhaps folks could clue me in as to what I was talking about. But in any case, um, keep your battery at 50% when you go to store it. And what you can do is charge it up on shore power, let it charge up to 100%, and then turn off your solar charging, turn off your DC charging. You want to do that anyway when you store your batteries. And then once you see on your battery monitor your state of charge get down to 50%, then you can turn off your main battery switch. And in my installations, we have like three things that you want to turn off, right? Your main battery switch, your solar breaker or your solar disconnect, and then also your DC-DC charger. So the DC-DC charger could be disconnected via a surface mount breaker. It could also be turned off via one of the small switches on the little. It's not a plug. I guess it's a little plug on the front of the DC-DC charger, which I've been doing in my more recent installations. And that we do that because if you turn off your main battery switch and your battery is separated from all of your DC loads, but your solar is still on, whenever there's sunlight coming into your solar panels, your MPPT charger is putting power into the system. And although it's not getting stored, it's still trying to give power to like your lights and your appliances and maybe even your servo. And you'll see things coming on and off as the sun goes in and out. And you don't want that. So you got to turn that solar breaker off. Same goes for the DC-DC charger. If your solar's off and your main power switch is off, but your DC-DC charger is still active, it's whenever you're driving, your DC-DC charger is going to be pushing power into your system, and it's going to want to turn on all of your appliances if you don't have switches to turn them off, like a main switch on your DC-DC fuse panel. So that's another thing that you want to do. Make sure your chargers are off. Keep your battery at 50% before you turn the main battery switch off. Don't charge it below freezing. And I think that's about it as far as batteries go. Now, a lot of you probably have vans that have water systems on board. And for me, I do install plumbing systems, and having drains and having a way to winterize your system is crucial. It's imperative here where I am in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. We are in a area that definitely will freeze and freeze maybe for days or weeks at a time. And so you want to get all of the water out of your system. Yes, you can run the glycol, fill your freshwater tank with gallons of this pink, toxic coolant, and then run it through all of your lines until it comes out your faucet and your shower and whatever other plumbing fixtures you have. And that will certainly do the trick. What I like to do is design a system that has drains at the main water tank, obviously a drain for your gray water tank if you have one, and then drains at the low point in your system. If you have a hot water heater, a drain there too. And if you look at some of the videos I have online, you'll see that my plumbing systems have drains on the hot and cold lines at the low point in the system. And what I tell folks to do is to open those up, open all your drains up, let it all drain out. Your fixture, say your sink faucet, you want to have that on and not all the way hot and not all the way cold, but right in the middle. That way, um, air can get back into the line and all of that water can siphon out. And I say leave those valves open and then do some driving around. Use your van, let the water slosh around and find its way out of the system. and that should take care of most of it. Depending on whatever hot water heater you have, you may have to do more. Um, those Bosch under sink 120-volt hot water heaters were very popular a few years ago in DIY van builds. The nice the nice thing about them, I guess, is that they're cheap and they hold 4 gallons, and you can heat them and then have 4 gallons of hot water. The bad side is that there's no way to winterize that tank without taking the whole tank out of your vehicle, turning it upside down, and draining all of the water. Um, and so I don't use those. I don't recommend anybody use those. Maybe if you live in Southern California or something like that, Texas perhaps, you could get away with it, because when it comes to water actually freezing in your van, there's been times when I've had vans here on my lot, or my own camper van when I had it. And even though it's cold outside or it dips below freezing overnight, inside the van, it's still staying above freezing. And so maybe there might be a few isolated areas that froze, like in a PEX line or PEX fitting. They can freeze, but that doesn't mean they're going to crack or burst. And the weakest points in your plumbing system are going to be your water pump and the little plastic strainer right before your water pump, which in the pumps that I use, it usually screws right on to the inlet side of your water pump, has a little plastic cap that you can unscrew. There's a little screen in there, and you want to dump that out and make sure that there's no water in there, because that plastic cap just cracks every time it freezes, for sure. Faucets also will freeze and crack, and I've had that happen. I've actually had it happen in a few builds that have been in my lot here. Folks brought them to me, and they didn't winterize them, and I didn't know that and didn't ask, unfortunately. And the faucet froze. Um, you replace the faucet, no big deal. So that's the batteries. That's the water system. If you have any questions, obviously, throughout all of this, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll get to them later. I have about 5 minutes left. That's all I want to dedicate to this today. Um, winterizing, water, batteries. If you have a hydronic heater, there's glycol in that heater, and that's going to be okay. It's not going to freeze. Obviously, that's the point of having a hydronic heater. Some folks have air pressure valves in their plumbing system, meaning that you have to find an air compressor and then you blow out, you connect the air compressor, and make sure you're using a low PSI, because if you're using high PSI, or unregulated PSI, you may blow your seals of your water pump or your faucet, or something else like that. So a low PSI, maybe 20 PSI, 10 PSI, that should do it. Open your faucets, let the water, blow all of the air. Let the air blow all of the water out of the lines. And then, of course, some production vehicles, like I have a Winnebago out here right now, and it's just designed to use the glycol coolant. That's the best way to do it, unfortunately. There's even like a 3-way valve where there's an extra hose. It's designed to, like, you just take your gallon jug, you stick the hose in, you turn the valve to that direction, turn on your water pump, and just let it suck it up and fill up your system with the pink stuff. And you're definitely good to go there. But where does that pink stuff go? Do you just empty it on the ground? I guess it goes into wastewater treatment, and then it goes into your river. Yikes. But in any case, I want to do these lives more. I want to answer your questions. I want to help you build better camper vans. I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen it all. I've worked on hundreds, I would say hundreds, so probably 100 very high-end 4x4 Sprinter builds. I've done custom military vehicles, 6-wheeled military vehicles, LMTVs, ambulances, stealth vans, obviously ProMasters and Transits, and really everything in between. I don't do much work on boats, although I am ABYC certified in the Marine electrical course that they offer. Sign up for my newsletter. I would love to stay in touch, keep you updated on all of my live streams. Also, I will be slowly rolling out some consultation and DIY van building packages. and programs for people that want to build their own camper van, but want somebody like me, a professional, that can answer their questions along the way. So you like what we're doing here today? I want to do this every week and maybe 2 times a week for the folks in my group. That way, when they're building their van and they have questions, they just save it or they just write into my website or my email, and then I give them the answer right, within a day, 2 days. I think that would be really valuable for folks. Let me know if you're interested. Anyway, my name is Sequoia, owner and operator of Phoenix Off Grid Solutions. Hope you like the live stream. Hope I didn't ramble too much, and see you next time.